There's a channel that had 0 subscribers 6 months ago and is now sitting past 30,000, with videos regularly pulling 1 to 3 million views each. Another creator took the exact same format to TikTok and went from 0 to over 150,000 followers in just a few weeks, then turned the whole process into a paid course. Some of these 60-second horror shorts are reportedly pulling in over $1,000 from a single upload. And the wildest part is almost none of these channels show a face, touch a camera, or spend a single dollar on tools to make it happen. I'm gonna walk you through the exact free, AI-powered process behind these videos, start to finish, so you can build one yourself. Before I get into the steps, you need to understand why this specific format is working right now, because it's not luck. YouTube and TikTok don't just reward raw view count, they reward completion rate, how much of your video someone actually watches before swiping away. Horror stories are almost unfairly good at this because they create what's basically a curiosity loop. You plant a mysterious premise in the first 3 seconds, and the viewer's brain physically doesn't want to leave before finding out what happens. That's not a trick. That's just how humans are wired around mystery and threat. The same instinct that makes you slow down at a car accident even when you don't want to look. On top of that, generic jump scare compilations are already dying out, while story-driven horror, real urban legends, creepy true stories, told with an authentic voice is exactly what's taking their place. And here's the part that actually works in your favor if you're camera shy. This niche is one of the very few where staying faceless doesn't just make production easier, it genuinely makes the content better, because a nameless, faceless narrator telling you something unsettling is somehow creepier than a smiling creator with a ring light and a logo in the corner. Low barrier to get in, unusually high reward if you do it right. Here's the part almost nobody talks about though. When people try to copy this format, most of them fail. Not because the format itself is hard, but because they're missing 2 or 3 specific pieces of the process which AI tools actually produce quality output: how to structure a story so people can't look away, and how to edit it so nobody's thumb finds a reason to scroll. A lot of people also make this way harder than it needs to be. Buying expensive software or trying to learn traditional animation, when almost every single piece of this can be built with free tools stitched together in the right order. Everyone sees the finished viral video. Almost nobody sees the actual assembly line behind it. So that's what I'm breaking down today, completely free, no course, no paywall, just the real steps. And if I had to name the 3 mistakes that kill most attempts at this before they even get going, it's these. 1. Leaning on cheap, generic jump scares instead of an actual story, which stopped working a while ago and just makes your channel look dated. 2. Recording your own voice instead of using a proper AI narration tool, which almost always sounds flatter and less controlled than people expect, especially for horror where tone matters this much. And 3. Skipping captions entirely, which quietly kills your video before it even has a chance, since a huge share of your potential audience is scrolling with the sound off. Alright, let's build this from scratch, starting with the channel itself before we even touch a single video. One quick expectation to set before we start. Every tool I'm about to walk you through has a genuinely usable free tier, and everything you just saw in those results happened using exactly that. No paid subscriptions required. That said, free tiers usually come with some kind of limit. A monthly character cap on voice generation, a monthly image generation cap, that sort of thing. So if you end up posting daily and this actually takes off, you may eventually bump into those ceilings. That's a good problem to have, and it's a decision for later, not something you need to solve before you make your first video. Step 1. Give your channel an actual identity, not just a random handle. Open ChatGPT and ask it to act as a branding expert and generate 10 channel name ideas for a horror storytelling channel focused on urban legends and true creepy stories. Something memorable, easy to spell, that evokes mystery without leaning on generic words like scary or creepy by themselves. Pick your favorite, double check it isn't already taken as a channel or handle on either platform you're posting to, and then in that same chat, ask it to write you an SEO-optimized channel description using your chosen name, working in the exact keywords people search for in this niche. Once that's done, ask it one more time for a detailed image prompt for a bold, simple, recognizable horror logo built around your channel name and description, One that still reads clearly, even shrunk down to a tiny profile picture size. Take that prompt to a free image generator, set the aspect ratio to square since that's the standard logo format, generate, and you'll typically get several strong options to choose from in under 30 seconds. Step 2. Get your story idea. And don't just take the first one you see. Paste a story idea prompt into ChatGPT and ask for a batch of ideas at once. 6 to 8 is plenty. Read through every single one before picking, because the winning idea is usually not the first one on the list, it's the one that makes you personally think, okay, I'd actually watch this. If none of them hook you, just say next and generate another batch. There's no rule saying you have to use the first round. A good filter to run every idea through is whether it has a genuine mystery, some real tension, and a twist that leaves people slightly unsettled by the end, not just a story that's technically spooky. This step feels small, but it quietly decides your video's entire ceiling before you've written a single line. Step 3, and this is the one almost everyone gets wrong, so pay attention. Do not just ask ChatGPT to write you a horror script and post whatever comes out. Two problems with that. First, platforms are getting noticeably better at detecting fully AI-written, unedited content, and it can genuinely hurt your monetization down the line. Second, if you're copying the structure of someone else's already successful video too closely, that's a fast way to get flagged instead of rewarded. Here's the actual workaround that works. Find a channel already doing well in this niche, grab the link to one of their best performing videos, and run it through a free transcript tool to pull the full text. Feed that transcript to ChatGPT and tell it to study the pacing, tone, and structure only as a reference, not to copy it. Then ask it to write you a completely original script on a different legend or story that keeps the same rhythm and hook style that made the reference video work. Reread what it gives you, smooth out anything that sounds robotic, and add a line or two that sounds like you. That's the difference between content that gets flagged and content that just happens to perform the same way. To make that concrete, say the reference video hooks people by opening mid-scene, dropping you straight into the scary part before any setup at all, then circles back to explain how the character got there. You wouldn't copy that specific story. You'd tell ChatGPT to build a brand new legend using that exact same in the middle of the action opening structure, so you're borrowing the mechanic that hooks people, not the actual content that's already been posted somewhere else. Step 4. Turn your finished script into a shot list. In the same chat where your script lives, ask ChatGPT to break the entire script into individual visual scenes and generate a detailed image prompt for each one, formatted for an AI image generator. For a 60-second script, expect somewhere around 15 to 20 separate scene prompts. Because that's a lot to generate at once, ask for them in small batches. 5 at a time works well, and just say continue to get the next batch until every scene in your script has its own prompt. If your story has a recurring element, a specific house, a specific object, a specific figure that shows up more than once, flag that to ChatGPT explicitly and ask it to keep the description of that element identical across every prompt it appears in. Otherwise, you'll end up with 3 slightly different versions of what's supposed to be the same house. And viewers notice that kind of inconsistency even if they can't quite say why something feels off. Step 5. Generate the actual visuals and lock in one consistent style before you start. A lot of the more polished channels do this by saving one reference image first, uploading it alongside their very first prompt, and telling the generator to match that exact dark, cinematic, slightly cartoonish style for every image after that, scene after scene, so the whole video looks like one artist made it instead of 5. Once your style is locked, there are several solid free options to actually generate from. Canva's built-in image generator works well if you set your canvas to the correct vertical dimensions for shorts first, and there are a handful of dedicated AI image tools built specifically for this kind of dark, cinematic style that also work fine, so don't be afraid to test 2 or 3 and see which one actually nails the mood you're going for. Whichever you pick, go prompt by prompt, save each finished image, and name your files in order 1, 2, 3 because that single habit will save you real time later when you're deep in the edit at midnight trying to find the right scene. Step 6. Record your voiceover and treat voice selection like it actually matters, because it does. Head to a free AI voice tool, browse the voice library, and actually preview 2 or 3 options against your script instead of grabbing the first one. Most of these tools let you filter by language, accent, gender, and rough age range, which is worth narrowing down first so you're not scrolling through 100 voices that don't even fit the tone you're going for. For horror specifically, you want something with a slightly dark, controlled, almost too calm quality to it. That's what sells tension better than an obviously dramatic voice does. And a lot of the higher quality voice models have a setting that boosts clarity and richness, so it's worth turning that on if it's available. Paste your script in, but strip out anything you don't want spoken out loud. First, headings, scene labels, stray notes so the narration flows as one clean piece instead of stopping and starting oddly. Most of these free tools cap you at a certain number of characters per month, so if your script runs long, keep an eye on that limit before you generate, and within seconds, you'll have a full broadcast quality narration file ready to download. Step 7, add a score, because silence or the wrong music is what makes an otherwise good horror short feel amateur. Ask ChatGPT in one sentence to describe the ideal music style and mood for your specific script. Take that description straight to a free AI music generator, make sure you select instrumental only since you don't want competing lyrics, and generate. You'll typically get 2 options to preview pick. Whichever one gives the strongest eerie atmosphere, download it, and don't worry if it runs longer than your video. You'll trim it down to fit exactly once you're in the editor. Step 8, now bring it all together in your editor. And this is where average videos become genuinely addictive one. Set your project to the correct vertical aspect ratio for shorts first, then import your voiceover, images, and music. Drop the voiceover onto the timeline first since it's your foundation, and go through it carefully, removing long pauses or mistakes, though horror content actually benefits from a few short, deliberate pauses left in, since a beat of silence adds suspense instead of hurting it. Line your images up against the narration one at a time, adjusting each cut so the visual matches what's actually being said in that moment. From there, add subtle motion so nothing sits static, a gentle zoom in on one image, a zoom out on the next, or a slow side-to-side drift on a few others for variety, so the eye always has something moving to follow. Add a controlled shake effect across the whole timeline, but keep the intensity low and deliberate. Not chaotic, the goal is unease, not visual noise. A vignette that darkens the edges adds a cinematic, slightly claustrophobic feel almost for free. Then generate auto captions. Switch to a bold, high contrast style since a large share of viewers watch with the sound off or in public. Keep each line short, no more than 8 or 9 words at a time so nothing feels crammed. And add a shadow behind the text so it stays readable against dark scenes. Bring your music in underneath everything, keep it well below the narration in volume so it supports rather than competes, add a short fade in and fade out, and export at the highest resolution and frame rate your editor allows. Quick, practical notes before you go build one of these yourself. Never post a script straight out of ChatGPT without rereading and personalizing it. That's the single fastest way to tank your monetization chances later. Lock your visual style with one reference image before generating the rest, or your video will look like 5 different artists worked on it. Keep your shake effect subtle. It should feel like tension, not motion sickness. And don't judge this format off your first upload. Your first few videos will probably sit at a few hundred views while you're still finding your rhythm, and that's completely normal. Not a sign it doesn't work. Step 9, and this is the step that actually separates the channels that make it from the ones that quietly disappear after 5 uploads. Your first videos are very likely going to underperform, sometimes badly, 500 views, maybe 1,000 if you're lucky, and that's exactly where most people convince themselves the whole thing is broken and stop. But almost every channel currently doing huge numbers in this niche uploaded dozens, sometimes over 100 videos, before anything genuinely broke out. This isn't about landing one viral hit. It's about staying consistent through the videos nobody's watching yet, and getting slightly better at the script, the pacing, and the edit with every single one you put out. Even if that improvement is small enough that you barely notice it video to video, think of it less like flipping a switch and more like compound interest. If your hook gets 1% tighter, your pacing gets 1% cleaner, and your captions get 1% more readable on every single upload, none of those individual improvements feel like much in the moment. but stack 20 or 30 of those tiny 1% gains on top of each other, and the video you post at upload 30 is a completely different caliber of content than the one you posted on day 1, even though you never consciously felt yourself leveling up at any single point along the way. Step 10. Once you've got a finished video, don't just post it once and move on. The exact same file works on YouTube Shorts, TikTok, and Instagram Reels with zero extra editing required, so post it to all three. Some of the biggest breakout examples in this niche actually built their following on a completely different platform than the one you'd expect. So don't assume your winning platform will be the obvious one until you've actually tested more than just one. Step 11 after every upload, go check your retention graph before you even think about the next video, because remember, completion rate is the entire game here, not raw views. If people are dropping off in the first 3 to 5 seconds, your hook isn't working no matter how good the rest of the story is, and no amount of editing further down the video will fix that. If people are dropping off in the last 10 seconds instead, that usually means your ending needs a sharper final line, something that lands harder right as the story closes. Either way, that graph is telling you exactly what to fix on the next one, so use it instead of just staring at the total view count. One more practical thing before we get to results. Once you've been through this whole process once, don't do it one video at a time from scratch every single day, because that's exhausting and it's the fastest route to burning out and quitting around video 10. Instead, batch it. Spend one sitting generating 5 or 6 story ideas and scripts back to back, another sitting generating every image and voiceover you'll need for all of them, and then a separate block of time purely for editing. It sounds like more planning up front, but it actually cuts your per video time down dramatically once you're not constantly switching between writing mode, generating mode, and editing mode for a single video at a time. Now let's actually look at what that looks like once it's working, because the theory only matters once you see real channels doing it. One horror storytelling channel went from a completely blank slate to over 30,000 subscribers in about 6 months, with videos that regularly land somewhere between 1 and 3 million views. Using this exact structure, AI-generated visuals, AI narration, and story-driven scripts rather than generic jump scares. A separate creator took a near-identical approach to TikTok and grew from 0 to more than 150,000 followers in a matter of weeks, with videos consistently hitting millions of views, and eventually packaged the whole method into a paid course once the pattern was clearly repeatable. Another channel, built almost entirely around AI-narrated horror shorts, crossed roughly 12,000 subscribers off of less than 50 total uploads, racking up somewhere around 4.5 million cumulative views and reached full monetization in that same short window. And a smaller, newer channel using this exact 9-step workflow hit over 36,000 subscribers off of only 22 uploads, with nearly every single video in that small library pulling outsized view counts relative to how young the channel was. Stack those 4 examples together and you're looking at well over 200,000 combined subscribers and somewhere north of 10 million combined views, built from channels that were all sitting at 0 not that long ago. None of these are cherry-picked outliers from years of grinding. Every one of them happened inside a few months, using entirely free tools, with nobody's face ever appearing on camera. What's genuinely interesting about all 4 of those examples is that they didn't get there through some unrepeatable stroke of luck. Every single one of them is running some version of the same 9 or 10 steps I just walked you through: an original, non-copied script, a consistent dark visual style, a controlled AI voice, subtle motion instead of static slides, and captions built for a sound-off audience. The tools they used aren't identical. Some lean more on one image generator, some prefer a different voice platform, but the underlying structure is close to identical across every single one of them. That's genuinely good news for you, because it means this isn't a 1 in a million situation. It's a process, and processes can be copied, refined, and repeated by anyone willing to actually sit down and go through the steps more than once. So if you're serious about actually building one of these instead of just watching someone else do it, don't overthink your first video. Just get through the 9 steps once, end to end, even if the result isn't perfect. Drop your channel niche or your biggest question about this process down in the comments. I read every one of them, and if enough of you want it, I'll do a full deep dive, turning one script into a finished video live, start to finish. And since the entire advantage right now is timing, this niche is nowhere near saturated yet, but it won't stay that way forever. The next video is going to cover the exact originality techniques that keep AI-assisted scripts from getting flagged, because that's the one part of this process that quietly makes or breaks a channel long-term. Make sure you're subscribed for that one, because it's the difference between a channel that grows for months and one that quietly gets capped before it ever really starts. 6 months from now, someone's gonna be the person with the 30,000 subscriber channel in this niche. There's no real reason it can't be you.